I'm your host, Michael Simeone. You can follow me on Twitter at SPStreamer. Let's welcome in my co-host, the best writer on Fantrax.com right now, and that is Lauren. What's going on, Lauren?
Stop. Thank you for that intro, and thank you for that little plug. Very kind of you. Yeah, not much. Just hanging out and shooting the breeze, and ready to talk baseball with you.
Are you currently writing anything right now for Fantrax, or I know you wrote an article, but I mean, do you have anything coming up?
I think I did I looked at some pitchers that I thought may surge in the second inning, and I think I'll do the second half of baseball, and I think I will probably do a hitter edition this week. So, but I haven't started working on it yet. So
yeah. I read the pitcher one; that was good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, we're going to talk about our second half predictions. Basically, we're going to talk about who we think could surprise people, who we think will regress, as well as some team stuff. Before I want to get into that, Lauren, though, I do have a question. Did you see the Jeff Bezos rocket and him going into space?
I didn't see it
for
but
a minute.
I heard about it. What is it? I mean, it's like these rich guys, they go to space. Didn't he shoot up he went up 60 miles or 62 miles up? And then it was in space for 10 or 11 minutes and then came back down. Is that?
Yeah. So it was him, his brother, an old woman who used to work for NASA, and then some kid whose dad bid millions of dollars to get him on it. And they went up. It was 10 minutes total. They went up, basically breached space where you could see the Earth, and then came back down.
See, and didn't Richard Branson do something similar?
Yes. So there's a couple people doing it, but the whole thing is, and my question for you is, it's basically them trying to make going to space a casual thing, anyone can do it. Eventually, I mean, not in our lifetime probably, but so if you had the opportunity, let's say it costs a normal flight, $300 to just go up into space and then come back down, would you do it?
I have no interest in going to space. I am I love that my feet are firmly planted on Earth, and that is fine by me. I know that there are some people that would absolutely jump at that. Would you jump at that? Would you do that?
I would wait till I'm really old, and then I would do it.
Okay. All right. So then you get some Earth life under your belt, and then you can just
just in case something goes wrong, because eventually. I mean, it's every transportation, flying, driving cars, accidents are going to happen. So there's obviously risks.
Totally scared,
Yes. Yeah.
And it'll be presumably super expensive. So,
Yeah. It's going to be, we probably will never get there, but we'll see.
What our podcast money? Come on. Show up,
because it's so much. All right. Let's go on to the actual episode. So like I said, we're going to talk about second half predictions. So first, we're going to talk about some pitchers and hitters who we think can maybe surprise or play a lot better moving forward the rest of the year. We were supposed to record this last week, so I apologize. We're kind of a week behind on this. But me and Lauren had some scheduling conflicts. Mainly me. I had suddenly had to do something for work, so I kind of had to cancel.
It was an equal, yeah.
But fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
So we're a week late on this, but whatever. We're rolling with it.
We're here. It's fine.
All right, Lauren. So give me a pitcher who you think can surprise everyone and could perform better in the second half that maybe people should be looking at.
I'm going to start this off with a guy that I think that you'll be happy that I chose. He is a Met. It's Tyler Mcgill. And you can tell me your thoughts on Mcgill, but right now, I think that he could surprise people. He's got a 2.10 ERA and a 3.35 FIP and a 1.10 WHIP. He gets some strikeouts. He's got a 27% strikeout rate, and he limits home runs. And really, he's been awesome. Since he's been in, but really his July starts, he has a 0.87 ERA, 277 FIP. He also says, I tend to be a sucker for the guys that can get strikeouts as well as ground balls. He gets ground balls at a nice clip. And and he's just his pitch arsenal has been great so far. He relies on a fastball, slider, and a changeup, and they all have a sub 250 batting average against them and a sub 210 expected batting average against them. The one thing I think that he kind of does have issues with is walking. But I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but if he can kind of, I guess, control that, I think he can be okay. I mean, his last 2 starts, he did pitch 6 innings, which I think is a good sign. And the Mets rotation has had some injuries lately, so I will think that there will be opportunity and volume for him. So I think that plays into his favor. So I don't know. I like him going forward. What are your thoughts as a Mets fan with Mcgill?
Yeah, I mean, I love him. I think in July he had like the best ERA in the league.
Okay.
Well, as of right now, at least, or the other day when I looked. Obviously gets the strikeouts. The fastball has been insanely good, like one of the better ones in the league right now. I think the walks are okay. I don't think it's really, he doesn't let up a lot of home runs as of yet. So, I think that makes it not really matter as much. And plus he's around about average. But people are going to roll their eyes when I say this because I said it about David Peterson last year, but I think it was true last year. But anyway, Mcgill, when I watch him, I didn't say this kind of about, I said coming into this year, I said I liked Peterson because when his back was against the wall, he always seemed to kind of step up and perform. Okay. Which he did the opposite this year. Yeah. But Tyler Mcgill, I don't want to say he is that. Not that I haven't seen that from him yet, but he kind of reminds me of almost like, it's going to sound weird, but he reminds me of like Soto on the mound. Every time he's pitching to someone, he like stares them down and
kind of like that attitude.
And like he like always constantly, like I feel like when he's going to get, like when the catcher's throwing the ball back and he's going to get, he like almost like walks towards the hitter. Like you know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. I just feel like he has an attitude about him, which I love. But yeah, I mean, he just looks like he's in complete control and knows what he's doing up there. But with all that said, he is a rookie, so I'm sure eventually MLB, that's what happens. The hitters are going to catch up. They're going to adjust, and then it's a matter of can he make adjustments back? You know what I mean? Right. So we'll see what happens when that happens eventually. I'm assuming it will. But I am with you. I mean, how could you not buy into this kid? He's still somehow owned under 30% in ESPN and Yahoo leagues combined. Crazy. Yeah, which is mind blowing. Yeah. So yeah, I really like that pick. I mean, obviously, especially as a Mets fan. So.
Good. Start the show off with the Mets pick. I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, my pick is going to be someone. Actually, Lauren, funny you said that you were going to pick him as well, and that's Chris Flexon. So we obviously both like Chris Flexon. Since June 1st, he has a 2.53 ERA, so he's been pitching really well with a 104 whip. I mean. Positive P-val on all 4 pitches. The changeup has really stepped up. It's his biggest whiff pitch, induces a lot of weak contact, has above average vertical movement to it. It's just a really good pitch. And I think if he even utilizes it more, he could actually be even better moving forward because I think he throws it around 15% currently. Okay. But it's a really good third pitch, I think, that he has. So I do like his arsenal. I think he's got it's somewhat of a deep arsenal too. And I mean, I'm going to mention the Mariners later, but I mean, they've been winning. And I think Chris Flexon's a big reason. I think he's going to be a big reason that they will continue winning as well.
Yeah, I mean, I like that pick. But my only kind of concern with Flexon is what are your thoughts with, because he does have a low strikeout rate. Does that concern you at all? Or do you think that
I mean, that will, I don't think it's going to come. I think that definitely limits his, his upside. But, yeah, I didn't realize how low his K rate is, but still, yeah, I mean, I think, he's more like a ratio guy. Like, I mean, obviously not as good as Kyle Hendricks, but it's like that type of thing. You're not going to get strikeouts, but you're okay with it if he keeps giving you a solid ERA and whip, and I think he'll do that moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a solid pick. I like that pick.
All right, what about a hitter? Who do you think is going to surprise in the second half as a hitter?
So, Michael, this one may come back and bite me, so I'm just fully aware of this. But I think that Gleyber Torres
I
could
like it.
surprise in the second half of the season. I mean, we've talked about him previously. He got just to this like super terrible cold start, right?
Mhm.
But since July, he's just totally been on fire. And he has a 132 WRC since July, 226 ISO. His overall line does not. It's very kind of underwhelming. He's got a 246, 330, 343, and a 90 slash line, and a 91 WRC plus. But I think that he's starting to. I think he's kind of seeing the ball a little bit better, because you also in July have seen his barrel rate and his hard hit rate just really jump up. So like I said, we kind of talked about him earlier in the season as someone. It's like, what is going on? Like, the power hasn't shown up. You probably, if you were going to draft Torres, you were drafting him for power. He's only a couple years removed from, a 38 homer season. You're not going to get that this season. But what's crazy is he has 10 stolen bases, and he has 6 homers, 10 stolen bases. And I think one of the things that we said was, we couldn't figure out what was going on. But once he starts to turn, I think, and kind of heat up, I think that you should try and scoop him up in case, he was dropped in your leagues. What's crazy is I think that he could be he could have like a 15, 260 line or something like that to end the season, which you would never think that, Torres would carry a line like that, because, he's known for power. But I don't know. Maybe he's figured something out. Like I said, he's been good really good for the past month, and maybe he just rides that out for the rest of the year. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm seeing here, he's making more contact. Like you said, the hard hit rate's up, hitting less ground balls. He's finally hitting some home runs. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is that he did, but yeah, I mean, he seems to be figuring it out, which is nice. I really like that you bring up the stolen bases, because that makes his value, that bumps it up tremendously, just that alone. So, I mean, while he's not giving you the power that you want, well, at least for the entire season, he's not giving you the power that you wanted or the average. At least he's getting you the bags, which is,
you'll take
pretty absolutely, especially, that you weren't expecting it.
No.
But yeah, I mean, as of late, starting to hit home runs and everything, like you said, I do like that. I liked Gleyber coming into this year, so I'm kind of hoping he does rebound, because I definitely have him on a team. You want to hear a horrible, horrible trade I made at the beginning of the year?
Yes, I do. Of course, I always want to hear about horrible trades.
I'm in a points league, and this is a home league, and like I said, I liked Gleyber coming in. So when he started struggling a little bit, I was like, okay, I feel like he's going to bounce back, so let me go after him. So I traded a player who I thought was overperforming at the time, in Marcus Semien. And I also traded a pitcher who I wasn't too sure would continue to perform in Yusei Kikuchi. I traded both of them for Gleyber Torres.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that your biggest regret so far? Like, was it one of your biggest trade regrets?
It definitely is. I have to say, though, I still have the most points in that league, so it's not so. It doesn't hurt as much right now.
Right.
But it was, if I end up like not winning because like the championship, and say like Gleyber like just tanks in the championship week, then I'll want to hurt myself.
That'll stick with you a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what about you?
My hitters,
Who do you have?
my hitter's gonna be Paul Goldschmidt.
Goldie.
Yeah. He's hitting 270 with 17 home runs and 55 RBIs on the year. The expected stats show that he should have had a better first half, because expected stats show what should happen, not what's going to happen. And his rolling xWOBA is way above league average. So, I think everything's going to start shifting for the better for him. And in July, he has been hitting 338. And this is definitely an error that I wrote down here. I wrote that he has 16 home runs this month, which I know is definitely not right. So we're gonna look real quick here. It must have
Maybe
been
you're confusing the 17 with the 6 stolen bases, and maybe you somehow got 16.
That, or maybe that's
6.
why it's 6 home runs, not
Yeah,
16.
yeah,
That's why I added a little one there, try and juice it up a little bit. But anyway, so in July he's hitting 338 with 6 home runs. The barrel rate and hard hit rate are on par with his career numbers. So I really just think that the power is going to come back a little bit in the second half, as well as we could see the averages come back as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that pick.
I saw a lot of people actually talk about him and say they liked him too. So, I mean, hopefully for those Goldschmidt owners, he can, it's not like he was horrible, but, maybe he could get to somewhat of more of that elite level again.
Yeah, I think maybe people were just unsure, like say in 2020. I mean, he just, it was a shortened year, whatever. He may have not just gotten off to like a fast start or anything, but, his 2020 was okay, but there's definitely, he lost a lot of power. And this, stolen bases have dropped off for a little while now, but I think there are probably concerns about, he's getting older, what will we see from Goldschmidt anymore? It's kind of like him and Rizzo. I feel a little bit, they're always kind of in the same tier with me,
and
it's just like, they're solid, but you're kind of expecting a drop off at some point. And so it's nice to see him kind of pick it up, especially with, Arenado's kind of hasn't been pitching as well or hitting as well. But yeah, it's something you like to see. And I know that I've been moving him up my kind of rest of season rankings slowly each week. So yeah. It's a good pick.
All right, let's move on to the more depressing side of things. Who do we think is going to regress in the second half? Let's start with your pitcher.
I'm going with Joe Musgrove. I think that he just basically, I mean, his line right now, he's a 3.13 ERA and a 101 WHIP, and all of his ERA estimators have him as a solid kind of mid-3 guy, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that at all. That's all good stuff. But you want to look. He's had trouble kind of transitioning with kind of the sticky stuff ban.
Yep.
And you've seen a complete night and day with his numbers, in the, up until June 20th and then after June 20th. And, the numbers and everything are going all in the wrong direction. So he had, with his pre-sticky stuff ban, he had a 2.28 ERA. Post sticky stuff, it's 5.34. Same thing with his strikeout rate. It's plummeted. It's gone from 11.16 K per 9 to 7.42. And then with the walks have increased. It went from 194 walks per 9 to 326. And again, same thing with his swinging strike rate. It went from a 13.8 down to a 9.3. Now that's not to say that he can't make adjustments, but in the 5 starts since the sticky stuff ban, he just hasn't been able to make adjustments yet. And I think that he's still a solid pitcher and he still can be. He just has to make those adjustments. And I think that if you're kind of a casual baseball fan and you just think, oh, I can just always throw, Joe Musgrove out there. He's with the Padres. He's going to get those wins. He's always going to pitch well. I think you just have to monitor him just a little bit closer and just kind of see if he's able to make adjustments and kind of get out of that. If not, I think that he's going to maybe be a little bit, his stuff may fall off a little bit as we've started to see that. So those are my thoughts on Musgrove. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think you actually just bring up a good point overall when it comes to the sticky stuff. I think the question is with a lot of these pitchers is how can they adjust if they were using it? And so far, Musgrove hasn't been able to adjust, whereas someone like, it looks like now, like Garrett Cole has finally been able to. I think Charlie Morton struggled at first a little bit, and now he's been pitching well. So I think that's going to make things that's what's going to make things so hard, especially when it comes to analyzing pitchers for next season, because, they did this in the middle of the year. So, like, let's say Musgrove like you said, like he hasn't been pitching well. Let's say he finished the year not pitching well, but who's to say that he can't figure out in the offseason and then go back to that elite level?
Yeah.
So it's just like, how are we going to be able to decide who's going to be able to do it and who can't?
Yeah.
Which we're not going to know. It's just going to be a guessing game. And I guess people can either be aggressive with it, take shots and think that maybe they can. And some people will be conservative, just say, I'm just going to stay away from these guys because I don't know. I'm going to act like they're the pitcher they were in this, after the sticky ban and be more conservative. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting and tough. So I'm glad you brought that up. My pitcher is going to be Kyle Gibson. He has a sub-3 ERA. I know we all don't think he's that, but I do think he potentially could end up with like a 4 ERA the rest of the way, which is something you don't really want. I mean, overall, for the season, his Sierra is at a 4.45, which just kind of proves to you that the skill set isn't quite there, especially with just 11.5 K walk percentage. The 2 fastballs let up a lot of hard contact, so I feel like that could become an issue down the road. But just to show his struggles as of late, in his last 4 starts, he's pitched 23 innings with a 6.26 ERA and just a 4.7 strikeout walk rate.
Yeah.
So just trending the wrong way. I don't think he's this bad. I obviously don't think he was as good as he was in the first half either. But I feel like he's just going to be a mediocre pitcher moving forward that potentially could just be a streamer.
Yeah. I mean, and then the thing is, it's kind of like, it's unfortunate timing for him. I mean, we're in kind of trade, the trade deadline is on Friday. And I know that he's a hot name that's kind of going around. And I wonder if teams think that he's still kind of worth buying and acquiring as maybe a kind of a back end guy to your rotation, because, or if they think, well, like maybe some of that shimmer, that kind of first half shimmer of Kyle Gibson, maybe that's just kind of worn off a little bit,
Yeah, that's a good point. He might not get moved now. I mean, we'll see. All right, let's move on to hitters. Who's your hitter for the second?
It's Adolis Garcia, who, I think that he kind of came out of nowhere this season, and he's, shown that he has kind of some pop and speed. And, on the season, he has, 22 homers and 8 stolen bases. He's got a, 114 WRC plus, but really since June, we've kind of started to see his production kind of tail off a little bit. And really, it's fallen off a cliff since July. And I think we'll just kind of continue to see more of that. Since the All-Star break, he's slashing 125, 176, 125 with a 123 ISO. So none of that is good. And I think that it all kind of goes back to, his poor plate approach, which is catching up with him now. He's got a 30% strikeout rate and a 4.9 walk rate. And, I think we're going to continue to see this, unfortunately. And I think that if he's, not getting on base, his steals are going to dry up. And if he's continuing to strike out at a high rate and he has some of these holes in his swing and his approach, then, I think that we'll continue to see his batting average fall even further. So I think that there's going to be a steep drop off with him rest of season. And we're just kind of starting to see it now.
So just real quick, we had a trade happen while we've been recording. The Astros have acquired relievers Kendall Graveman and Rafael Montero from Seattle in exchange for third baseman Abraham Toro and reliever Joe Smith. But apparently the problem is sources say that Graveman being traded to the Astros did not go over well in the Mariners clubhouse. Sounds like the team's not happy. I think it's interesting. I mean, obviously that's pretty big for the Astros getting Graveman because he's been fantastic this year. He's the save ops probably won't really be there though. So if you own Graveman, that could hurt. But I think that's kind of cool and good for the Mariners. I mean, they're getting a good young hitter in Abraham Toro. So that kind of makes sense, but I don't know. This is like a weird. I don't know.
It's kind of strange.
We're trying to compete, but Jeff Passan is the one who tweeted this out. He did say Mariners are far from done. They're still looking to add players per sources and could be very active over the next 72 hours. So I guess they're still going to make moves. So I guess we got to see the final product for them, because I know they said they were going to be aggressive at the trade deadline and I think, make a run for the playoffs. But
yeah, they've got, I know we maybe talk about them later, they
yeah, I mean,
got some momentum going, I think,
Yeah. Yep. All right. So on to my hitter.
Who's your hitter?
Chris Bryant. Got a little distracted. Chris Bryant is going to be my hitter. I know he's been struggling immensely already, but I feel like it could still continue. Kind of hoping the Mets don't trade for him, but we'll see what happens. But since June, he's only hitting 193 with just 5 home runs and a 156 ISO. Meanwhile, between April and June, he was hitting 324 with 12 home runs and a 286 ISO. So a really big difference there. Yeah. Basically, my issue with him is he's completely lost his plate discipline. He's increased his swing strike percentage, decreased his contact rate, and increased his chase rate. So just everything he just seems like a mess. And when plate discipline goes, that's not good. So I just feel like he may continue on this route where he just kind of a dud the rest of the year. So, I feel like for anyone who has him, you might kind of be stuck with this kind of production moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that he just, it's funny because he did such, I think, a big spike up the ranks, in first half. And
Huge.
I think he's just kind of just falling down a little bit from that. Because I think he was playing a little bit over his skis, the first half. And it was nice to see, I think. But yeah, I think that he's come down a little bit, and I agree with you in terms of kind of rest of season stuff with him. But it'll be curious to see if he gets moved and where he goes, and if, say, he were to get moved, if something like a change of scenery does him well, or how that affects him.
Yes. Also some news.
Yes. Should we just stop our show and just report news?
I know, right? Someone just sent this to me. So, the Nationals have been trying to trade Scherzer and now trade Turner, allegedly. Turner randomly just got pulled out of the game for and apparently there's no reason. He singled, scored a run, and then they pulled him. So I wonder if he's on the way out, which would be really interesting.
I heard like the Mariners were linked to him earlier today, but I don't know. Lots of teams are probably linked to Trey Turner, and I'm a big Trey Turner fan. I live in DC, and he's my favorite National. And I will be very sad to see him go. And I think that I think it's too bad, because I think that who was reporting it? Someone was reporting it earlier, that the Nats just don't have an interest in dealing with working with a long-term contract with him, which I'm like, what? Come on, he's great.
It's
I love
weird.
him.
I know, especially. I mean, how sad are you? If you're Soto, you are hating life if he leaves.
I know.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I guess we'll see if anything happens there. All right. Moving on to second half. Overall best pitcher. Who you got?
I'm still gonna roll with one of the top guys, and that's Carlos Rodon.
Okay.
I think he's he's been lights out. He's got the 2.94 ERA, he's got 2.48 WHIP and a 2.82 SIERA. He's got rocking a 36% strikeout rate and 29% strikeout minus walks rate. And I think that part of the reason he's done so well is he's seen increases in his whiff rates with his fastball and his slider. They've really jumped. Last year with his fastball in particular, he had a 14.3 whiff rate. It's up to 31.2% this year. And that's probably due, he's added almost 3 miles per hour onto his fastball, which is insane. And so it's been working for him. And the sliders also is working for him as well. It's not as effective. He's not seeing as much. He's seeing a lot of whiff rates on his slider. It's went from 26.3 to 43%. So, he's been cruising. I like Rodon to continue to roll on, for this second half. And I also do like, he's in a division where, he's got win potential. And honestly, you could pick any of, you could pick like Giolito or Lance Lynn. I think any of these guys would be, could be an answer for this question of, who will be the best overall pitcher. But I'm going to go with Rodon.
And you know what's the best thing about him is I was worried about what they're going to do with his workload, but he's on a 1-year deal, and La Russa has said that he has no intention of slowing him down. Yeah. I mean, the fact that he's on a 1-year deal, usually teams abuse those pitchers. Yep. So I think I don't even think he's going to be limited in terms of innings, which is fantastic. So I think it's a really good call. I'm going to go with Brandon Woodruff. And everyone knows I love him. He's just been phenomenal. I think like between last year and this year, if you combine them, he's like the 3rd best ERA overall. Just no flaws there. 2 really good fastballs, now 2 great breaking balls. He's only been getting better and better each year. And, I've been mentioning that next year, I feel like it's going to be hard to almost keep him out of the top 5 because he does everything right. And, clearly no injuries, knock on wood, but he's just a fantastic pitcher, and it's hard not to like him. So I just feel like consistency is key, and he could definitely continue moving forward. So
I think that's a good pick. And I don't think that there are really any issues with innings with him. I know that have talked about that, but they're not going to limit him.
I don't think they can. There's no way they could not run their ace out there. You know what I mean? So all right, how about hitter? Who's your overall
well, we were just
hitter
talking about Trey Turner, and so this doesn't bode well, but I was picking Soto, who I think that he got off to a little bit of a slow start. He was on the IL, and the Nats had a delayed start because of COVID. But really since June, he's kind of gotten back to his old self. He's hit 13 of his 17 home runs in June. And since June, he has a 172 WRC plus. And just in general, I think that this is Soto's just, he has such a high floor, and he's got such a plus plate approach, and he brings that high batting average, which I think people should consider a premium. He's got a career 295 average that goes along with big power. He chips in some steals. I think he's he's just like a locked in 5 category monster. And yes, I think though that if we start seeing the Nats kind of lose some players like Trey Turner, I know that Max Scherzer has been, there's been rumors about him as well. Who knows, that'll affect, it'll affect some of his run production numbers, but in terms of just an overall best hitter, I'm gonna roll with the hometown big bopper here in DC with Juan Soto.
Okay. So just about Trey Turner. Apparently there's indication that he did get hurt. Allegedly. Well, we trade rumors just going crazy.
I love the trade rumor week. It's so fun.
Oh my god, the end of this week is going to be so much fun.
I love it. I know.
But apparently they're saying when he went from first to third and slid into third, he looked super uncomfortable and just went straight into the clubhouse. So they're indicating that he maybe is not getting traded. My best hitter is super boring, and it's going to be Vlad Guerrero Jr. The guy's just been a monster. I mean, elite rates in every single category, and I just don't see why he won't continue and potentially, make a run at not only MVP but also potential triple crown. So,
he's awesome.
We'll see what happens there. He's just ridiculous. All right, second half surprise team. I'll just push mine out of the way because it kind of just got ruined from this trade, because everyone's saying it looks like Seattle might be sellers now, but it was going to be Seattle Mariners because I thought they're going to be buyers. And basically I just said, if Clinic and Moore get going, the offense would be much better, especially with the way, Haniger's been playing. Seager's been pretty good. And then I thought, I like their pitching staff. I thought I could surprise. Kikuchi's been great. Logan Gilbert's been fantastic. If Marco Gonzalez gets back on track, we talked about Chris Flexon and how good he's been. Their bullpen FIP is second in the league, and their Sierra was 7th in the league in terms of bullpen. Now that will change.
I feel that kind of was under the radar, though. I wouldn't expect that, actually.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, that's why I love their bullpen. Their bullpen is really good because they had Graveman and Seawold. Seawold's been fantastic. He's been like one of the better relievers in the league. But so I wrote with an improved bullpen, which apparently is not anymore, a good pitching staff, and maybe some young guys showing up. I thought maybe they can make a run. But that might be different now. So we're going to go to you, Lauren, and rely on you. Who is your second half surprise?
My second half, I was going to pick the Mariners, but I switched it up, and I'm rolling with the Blue Jays. I think that, in terms of, they're 4.5 games back behind, the wild card, 10.5 games back from the Red Sox. But I think they can make a push. I think they can, end up as, number 3 in the AL East. Their bats are super solid. I think, it's a tough lineup to beat with Vlad and Simeon and Bichette and Hernandez, and Springer's back and all that stuff. They lead the American League in runs scored. And they're second in the league in WRC plus. Now, there is a problem, though, and that is the pitching. Both their rotation and their bullpen. They have a staff ERA of 4.04 and as well as a 4.37 FIP. So that's not pretty. And I'm just not sure that, Robbie Ray and Ryu can really get it done. So I would actually like to see them. If they're gonna buy, I would like them to get some arms and try and solidify, if they could do something in the rotation, maybe even in the bullpen, because I think that they're set with bats. So I think if they can do that, they can make a push. And I also do like kind of this narrative of they're going back to the Rogers Center at the end of the month. This is they're going to be playing for the first time in front of their kind of home fans since like 2019. So I like that. That may give them a little bit of boost. And so I'm backing the Blue Jays for a surprise second half team.
I like that. What about? I'm actually surprised you didn't pick the Braves.
No, I don't know what the Braves are doing right now. I just can't. I honestly, I don't know what's going on over there. I know that the NL East can be a little squirrely, and anyone can. Your Mets are leading right now. But it's just like I don't know, and I feel like they've been buying, but it's even if they were to make the playoffs, which I think is a long shot. How far are they going to go? I love them, but it's just like, I'd rather roll with, I don't know, I'm rolling with the Blue Jays. That's
I mean, the injuries just killed the Braves. I mean, well, Darno should be coming back soon, but he'll probably just get injured again. We all know Acuna.
He's always injured. Yeah.
And then Ian Anderson went down. Soroka's down. It should be back soon, and then the whole thing with Ozuna, obviously.
Yeah, I know. I just feel this is not the Braves year,
I agree.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think last year should have been the year they could do something, but they'll be better moving forward, obviously, as long as they can stay healthy. Hopefully, Soroka can come back.
We'll see. I don't know. So what do we have got? Who's going out of contention? Who do you think is going to go out of contention?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Athletics. I think we see some regression with their pitching staff. The staff ERA is really good at 3.72, and I do say that the Athletics are always really good at, getting the most out of their pitchers. But the staff ERA comes with the FIP of 3.91, which isn't bad, but xFIP of 4.31. So they start lighting up more home runs. That could be an issue. In the Sierra 4.12. I think individually when I look at them, Cole Irvin really just has one amazing pitch. Montas is a mess. Manaya, I think, could be overperforming, and he might regress a little bit. And then plus, their lineup just doesn't really impress me too much. They kind of remind me of the Yankees. I feel like there's a lot of all or nothing to it. which is kind of surprising because usually the Athletics aren't like that. But like with Moreland, Murphy, Chapman, I feel like that's all or nothing right there. And then at the end, you have Seth Brown and Elvis Andrews, which are just kind of like, So I just don't know if they have enough to continue to stay in playoff contention. But we'll see. But they're the one team that I thought, that I kind of doubted. What about you?
They are actually, I am with you on this
Same
one.
thing.
I also had the A's. It's like their momentum's lacking. Like you said, kind of their lineup is lacking some bite. And I really think outside of, Chris Bassett, I think that their pitching is shaky / unpredictable. And I think that if you look at their July record, they're 8-11, but of those 11 losses, 8 were lost by 1 run. And so it's just like, they're there, but they just can't close deals. And it's just, I don't know. I just, you don't feel, you just don't really feel it with the A's, I think,
I don't.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look at the standings. I don't even know. Everyone else seems like they're, the Brewers are obviously good. Giants, Dodgers, Padres, Astros, White Sox, Red Sox, Rays. Everyone's a pretty good team. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, And now the Mariners apparently are sellers, so they're not, So, All right. So the last part of this episode is we're just going to talk about a prospect call-up that could have the most impact the rest of the season for your team. We'll start with you, Lauren. Who you got?
First of all, I just need to just be like, as a disclaimer, I am not good with like the prospect stuff. So I really think we need like Eric Cross to come back on. He's like, Mr. Prospect. So I'm going to say Bobby Witt Jr., but I'm not even sure like what the odds of him coming up are. But if he does, it's my understanding that he's the guy that you kind of want to run and try and claim or stash. I think that he's got like 30-30 potential. He's got some power and speed. And I'm just not sure kind of like what the odds are. But he has, and also I think that he just went to AAA. He's only played like 6 games in AAA, but in those 6 games, he has 2 homers and one stolen base. But I was reading something saying, well, the Royals may just promote him, but it's kind of like a 50-50 or maybe even like a less chance. So I don't know. This is all really I can say about Bobby Witt Jr., which isn't a whole lot. But I'm going to go with Bobby Witt Jr.
I'm going with just someone who we have no idea if we're going to see either. But it's Mackenzie Gore.
Okay,
it's Mackenzie Gore. I just feel like he could just have a big impact because, obviously there's a lot of there was a lot of hype around him, right? Obviously he has the skills and there's a hype for a reason because all of his breaking balls and all this stuff have, high whiff rates, all that kind of stuff. And then since all that hype happened, now he's just kind of like disappeared. But I think the Padres could really use him because like we mentioned, Joe Musgrove hasn't been pitching well. Ryan Weathers is just kind of not that great. Paddock, he's kind of a mess. So they really just have Darvish and Snell. So I feel like if he could eventually get the call and if he is this pitcher that everyone talks about how good he is, then he could make a pretty big impact for the Padres moving forward, especially come playoff time and all that kind of stuff. So that's who I went with. But, who knows if we actually see him or not because he's kind of an enigma.
I like that. Yeah, no, I like that call. And it's kind of to your point of, if you start kind of rattling off these, Padres rotation guys, it's just like, in the beginning of the season, it's just like they're stacked, they're loaded, it's great. And now it's just like, either between poor performance or injury, or whatever, it's just they've really kind of dwindled a little bit.
Yeah, yep, definitely. They were stacked coming into the year, but that was the risk they ran. They knew that all of these pitchers that they added and stuff were super injury prone. Reap what you sow, I guess. All right. That does it. We will, of course, be back next week. We're going to have David Mendelson on next week.
Nice.
Me and him rag on each other a lot. So It'll be interesting.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so appreciate everyone who listens. Just remind everyone, Lauren, where they can find you on Twitter and stuff.
It's LK Auerbach. Also, I've been just started writing at Fantrax. And then I also do another pod with my buddy Andrew Seifter. It's called the Rest of Season Rankings. And you can find our rankings and some of the articles that we do over at rosrankings.com.
Do you have any idea when your next Fantrax article is going to be out? Or you're not
Probably
sure?
at the end of the week, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody look out for that.
Yeah, look out, everybody. It's coming.
All right, guys, that does it. Thank you for listening. Check out our website, spstreamer.com. Check me out on Twitter at spstreamer. Check out our membership. Really great Discord chat, all that kind of stuff. And until then, we'll speak to you guys soon, and everyone have a good rest of your week.
See ya.
See you later.